Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. And with the patch 11.27 finally being out, the most requested and fan-coveted feature of housing is finally here, at least in early access, which means players now get an opportunity to farm up a ton of decorative rewards, and there's going to be a lot of sources for how you earn decorations for the inside and the outside of your home, which includes older raids, older dungeons, but also some of the newer content arriving once Midnight finally fully launches. But for the time being, if you're somebody who's trying to collect as many decorations to furnish your home, then right now diving into older legacy content while waiting for Midnight might be one of the best sources of it, as a lot of the old school but fan favorite encounters and bosses will now drop even more items than ever before. Not only do we have new rewards on some of the older dungeons and raid bosses, but we actually have even more decorative rewards from some of the old school open world content as well, which includes places like the Undermine from the War Within expansion, garrisons from Warlords of Draenor, and even warfronts from Battle for Azeroth. So for today's video, I wanted to go over all of the different sources of PvE content that are now available for you to be able to claim and earn even more decorations for your new home. At least everything that is available right now before the official launch of Midnight, which is going to add even more items for you to be able to collect. With that being said, as always, if you guys want to see more regular decorative housing items and even housing guides in the future, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. Now, there's also a number of decorations you can get from actual dungeons and raids, though this number is actually pretty small, at least right now. A lot more drops are going to be added once Midnight launches, and I think it's definitely worth making an updated video for all of the new decor that's available once Midnight is finally available outside of just beta. But for the time being, we do have a bunch of decorations that you can get from older raids and dungeons, though it is a small selection. Starting with some of the classic content, we have a bunch of different instances, like Blackrock Depths, for instance, the dungeon, the big one. The final boss, Emperor Dalaran Thorison, does drop a Dark Iron Chandelier, which is really difficult to preview because this is the normal zoom out and this is normal zoom in, so you can more or less see it, but I'm sure that it looks much better actually in-game when you can actually place it. Another instance that's worth your time is Dead Mines, especially like the Cataclysm version. If you do the final boss of Captain Cookie, you may potentially get an item of Stormwind Footlocker, which is just pretty plain as far as like chests and footlockers go, but it definitely does have those like Stormwind Alliance-y look, so if you have more of an Alliance home, doesn't shoot match it pretty well. Another quote-unquote classic, even though these are more Cataclysm dungeons more or less, is Shadowfang Keep. The final boss of Lord Godfrey drops a Gilnean circular rug, which actually looks pretty good, especially with some of the colors that really do match the Gilnean feel. Now, the other dungeon I was looking for is Upper Blackrock Spires, so initially my brain went Lower Blackrock Spires is a classic dungeon, where's the Upper? Apparently the Upper is instead the Warlords of Draenor version, they did make a remake version of it, and one of the bosses from here, Warlord Zayla, does drop a Horde battle emblem, which looks fantastic, especially if you really want to show off your Orcish heritage. From Mists of Pandaria, we have the Temple of the Jade Serpent, where we have the Pandaren Tome of Pandaren Wisdom, which is one of the more unique books that has this more Pandaren aesthetic with like a tablet and what looks like a wooden engraving to it, which definitely is worth adding if you have more of like a Pandaren decorated home, and some of those Pandaren items in particular are some of the best looking. The only other piece of content from Pandaria that drops more decor is Siege of Orgrimmar. So if you've not tired of this place from playing Mop Remix, hopefully you're ready to just jump back in, and hopefully you already have your skip to Garrosh, because Garrosh can now drop the Warlords, Horde Warlords throw, which looks absolutely amazing. So hopefully this item has a decent drop chance, and hopefully it's not as low as potentially his mount or his shoulders. Moving into Warlords Draenor, we have a number of dungeons like Auchendon, for instance, which drops a more of a Draenic Ottoman. So if you got this whole Draenic type of aesthetic for your home, or just want a purple Ottoman to add to your collection, that does drop from Terran Gore. Another instance that has a decor item is in the Iron Docks dungeon, which is the Orgrimmar sconce, which looks, again, really good if you're trying to go for this Orgrimmar chains, bones, tusks, and spikes aesthetic. The expansion of Legion actually drops a bunch of decor, so hopefully you're already playing Legion Remix, because that's probably going to be the fastest and the best way to collect all of these items, and there is a huge number of them. Like Natharian's Lair drops the Thunder Totem Brazier. The Legion version of Karazhan has the Tome of Reliquary Insights, which is a book that flips the pages. It is a little odd looking, as you can see. It's a little It's like the animation itself is a little buggy, but I'm hoping it's a lot better in game. The dungeon is here to Triumvirate, which is going to be a dungeon as part of the Season 1 for Midnight, so even if you miss it, you'll still have another chance at it. But we got the Argosian Crate, again, even more draining type of items. Darkheart Thicket also has another item. If you're looking for more of this Night Elven aesthetic, you get the Moon Blessed Storage Crate, which looks pretty good. We also have the Dungeon of Court of Stars, which from the final boss we have another Soromar type of item, the Ornate Desk, which looks so good. I think I really do have an obvious bias and preference for some of the Nightborn elements. Finally, we have the raid of Nighthold where Spellblade. Finally, we have the raid of Nighthold where Spellblade drops you the Magistrix Garden Fountain, which looks so good. It almost looks like one of those Blood Elf fountains that you can find in the starting area, but not quite. So this one can definitely be a perfect centerpiece in any part of a house, whether outside or inside. Moving on to the Battle for Azeroth expansion, we have a handful of items, like in the Shrine of the Storm, we have the Tide Sage's Fireplace, which is fantastic if you're trying to go for this Nazathian look, or if you just want to go for like a Seafarer's fireplace to add to your house decorations. Freehold has a stolen Ironforge seat, which looks kind of low quality, like as if it's classic, but I guess that's the whole point. It's a stolen seed from Ironforge on the final boss of Harlan Sweetie. We also have Operation Mechagon Dungeon, the mega dungeon from that expansion, and if you want yourself a Gnomish Tesla Tower, you can pick it up from King Mechagon. From there we can move on to the Dragonflight dungeon, skipping over Shadowlands entirely, starting with the Algathar Academy, which is going to be a dungeon that will be available during the first season of Midnight. So this one you could skip out on and pick up later, but we got the Valdrakken bookcase, which drops from Echo of Doragosa. Over in Notharis, we do have a ghoulish Kolashi Goulash, which is kind of like the one of the items you can use within the dungeon in order to give yourself a short temporary buff. So if you're looking to add this to your home, you can as well. The Dungeon of Ruby Lifebowls also has an additional item. If you're looking for more a Dragonflight or a dragon aesthetic for your home, you got the Valdrakken Hanging Lamp, which looks really good. I like how it's a crystal with all these gems on the side and the fire inside of it. It looks actually really solid. From there we have a handful of items from the War Within expansion, and I really mean handful. Like we have the Meadery or then we have the War Within expansion, which only has literally 2 items. Starting with Meadery, we have the Meadery window, which looks really good and has this like fall off lighting effect just from one direction. So this could potentially be good if you want to like phase this window into a wall, but create the lighting and use that in order to like light up things without necessarily having a window there, but just use it as a light source. And for the Dungeon of Priory, we have the Overgrown Arathi Trellis, which looks pretty alright if you're looking to make your home, or at least the outside of the home, look a little bit more almost like a farm-like type of scenario. Now, outside of dungeons and raids, you can also get a variety of PvE decor rewards from open world content, since open world is technically content that many players do go after and definitely should be considered as part of overall content available. There's actually a number of items that you can obtain through the decoration system. One of them being a variety of different items like the Shadowmoon Open Air Shed, which can go outside of your home if you're trying to go for more like a simple but more of a drainy type of look for your home. And there's a number of these items that you can obtain from the WAD Garrison Missives, which is a system where you go to talk to Garrison Quartermaster, and you can get these missives, which were like group quests within a world area, basically world quests before they made world quests in a sense. And you go to an area and you slay a bunch of enemies in the area until you fill up a bar. And that's really about it. These, even on a max level character, will take you a little bit of time. Definitely took me on my max level character. Even if you're one-shot on all of the mobs, it's just you need to kill so many of them just to fill up the bar. Unless you encounter a bunch of elites and really high-value rares, then those can help speed up the pace. But for the most part, with so many people jumping into that content, it is going to take you a little bit of time. But it's generally pretty easy. The actual missiles will cost you a little bit of garrison resources in order to be able to start earning them, however, or unlocking the quests. And not every single one of those quests will give you decor. A lot of them will just give you Apexis crystals. However, I did notice that Alliance characters were able to get decor, however my Horde characters were not. So this may be just a little bit of an oversight by Blizz, and some of them will need to be hotfixed in the future, but it does seem like there's a bit of a Alliance type of a advantage here than that of a Horde right now with this type of a garrison system. So if you have an Alliance character that's built up their garrison, that might be a good character to jump on into this content with. But if you have a Horde character, you may just have to wait until they hotfixes so that Horde can finally start getting some of those decor as rewards. Another piece of content you could dive into is the theater troupe in the Isle of Dorn, where you can get the Council Ward's Jewel Goblet, which is a unique decor that you can obtain from this open world activity specifically. And participating in a theater troupe is pretty easy. There's a good chance you've been playing War Within. You've been doing it already as part of your weeklies and maybe even dailies if you play multiple characters. But as you complete the theater troupe activities, which are available at the top of every hour, I believe, then you'll be able to fill up this bar to get actor chests. And actor reward chests is how you can potentially obtain a Council Ward's Jeweled Goblet. So the more activities you complete while the theater troupe is active, the more chests that you can get from the green, the blue, as well as the purple. It doesn't seem to be that the higher the quality, the more likely you are to get the goblet. It's just even the green baseline reward chests can potentially drop you the goblet. It's just a bit down to RNG. But try to perform as many tasks as you can to get as many of the reward chests as possible in order to get possibly a chance at an extra decor. Then we have Darkshore, where you can actually obtain up to 4 items, 2 of them being of the Undead Forsaken variety, and 2 being of the Keldarai Night Elven variety. And you can obtain them by pretty much just running around Darkshore, the Warfront version, and then slaying as many rares as possible, as every rare in Darkshore apparently has a chance to drop one of those 4 pieces of decor for you to add to your collection, which is pretty awesome. If you've played back in BFA and you unlocked Darkshore as a Warfront and you unlock the entire Warfront system, then you should be able to jump into Darkshore immediately. And especially if you farm those rares in the past for mounts and a variety of other rewards, this gives you another chance to go back there and refarm them all over again, but this time for unique Warfront themed decor. Now, any single rare that you slay has a chance to drop you any one of the decorations. It doesn't have to be like an Alliance character or a Horde character. Basically, I was getting a bunch of Night Elvish items as a Horde character, but I also was getting some Forsaken items here as well. So it doesn't really make a difference what faction you are. As long as those rares are up and they are reset for you, then you should be able to slay them in order to get a chance at these rewards. Now, the Warfront area of Darkshore is going to be faction limited. Like, at first, Horde is going to control it, and then later Alliance controls it, and then it kind of just passes back and forth over and over like that infinitely. So that is something you're going to have to be a little bit aware of, though. Like, whenever it's available for your Horde faction, technically Alliance characters can go there and farm rares as well, but the zone becomes a little more hostile for you, so it's a little bit easier to have like Alliance ults ready whenever the zone is held by Alliance, and then the Horde ults ready whenever the zone is held by Horde. But all those rares is something that every single character should be able to farm through, especially if they're well enough geared and leveled, so that's another easy activity for you to incorporate. From there, we move on to the island of Mechagon, where there's a bunch of rewards and decor you can obtain just from doing some of the island's activities. One of it being crafting items through the tinkering station, so you literally get to make these items. There's a number of tinkering components that you can apply that you can find within the island of Mechagon in order to literally create a decor for your home. You get to procure all of these components from some of the Mechagon's foes, like some of the rares and events. You can also get it from treasures or dailies as a reward for some of the different like weeklies that you could do in the area. So there's a bunch of different like components that you will need to obtain and collect before you can craft these, but a lot of these items are immediately available at the tinkering station once you have Mechagon, the island, unlocked. You also get a Nomorgon recycling from the recycling minigame that you get to do over at the Junkwad Depot, and that one is pretty easy to obtain. Essentially, you get to slay enemies in the Junkwad Depot and then obtain a bunch of cogwheels and plates and springs and combine them together to create scrap. Then you turn them into the recycling stations and get these boxes, either green, which give like low quality reagents for Mechagon, or the purple box that can give you a bunch of high quality items and an Omicron recycling decor piece, which is pretty awesome, but it only drops from the purples and it will take you a while to obtain. I would suggest just running around killing mobs in Junkwad Depot. It really won't take you that long, but if you do want to skip the process, technically all the components, the cogwheels, the springs, and the plates can be bought in the auction house. Sometimes they're just a little bit more costlier than others, so that is something that you can do if you just don't really want to stand there killing mobs and grinding them. Another way to get decor around Mechagon is through self-assembling homeware kits, which come from Mechagon dailies. Though not the dailies located at the main player hub of Mechagon, like the main center area where the tinkering, where all the NPCs are. You wouldn't find NPCs outside of the main player hub. Any of the Mechagon gnomes that are like way out into the boonies, like by the trogs or in the woods or in the forest or way out in the middle of nowhere. And those will kind of rotate every single day. It really kind of depends how many are up. Like today I only had 1 daily. Sometimes there could be up to 3 potentially, if not 2. So these are going to be kind of hit or miss whenever they are up. But when they are active, you definitely want to do them, because completing those quests will grant you the assembling homeware kits, which are pretty much loot boxes. Every time you open one, it's a random item that you can get. There are some components that you can get out of it, like small mechanical crates and self-sealing steam barrels and small home cogs, or one of the more rare items, which is the retired industrial gnome grabber, which is a big arm that you could add, which could be part of like maybe a workshop in your house, maybe part of like a blacksmith bench, or if you just want to put it on the outside of a home to make it look more mechanical and, you know, all the rusty with all the mechanome parts, you can as well. It's really up to you, but this would be definitely one of the more rarer items that you can obtain from these self-assembling homeware kits. Then we also have undermine activities, where you can get components such as very reliable undermine lampposts, and you get this one by doing jobs in the undermine. Specifically, driving around doing the delivery jobs in your car, which is pretty easy to do. Just hop in your vehicle once you have unlocked it and start the job process, and then drive around until you eventually unlock this item. The jobs thing does take a little bit of time. Like, the actual activities are not difficult, it just could be a little time consuming unless you're like really good operating the vehicle. It can really hit those tight corners and turns, but this one will eventually drop from some of those job requests. Another item you can obtain is a trash fire barrel, which is definitely not the most high quality cosmetic reward for your home. You know, it's a rusty barrel with fire in it. But if you're trying to go for more like a jank look for your house, it's definitely a great addition. This one you get from doing the scrap heap chests. So you join a scrap heap, you click in the scrap pile, maybe sometimes you'll put up the fires, or, you know, get rid of trash, or get rid of some of the enemies attacking you, and when you end the scrap heap, you got a chest at the end. I remember players farming those a lot back in Undermine. This one is not a guaranteed drop, so this one will make you take a little bit of time in order to unlock. Then we also have a Legion activity, a couple of them, one of them being from the High Mountain Emissary Decor. Essentially, when you maximize your rep together with a High Mountain faction, you get a bonus reward box from that faction, which is pretty easy to do over in Legion Remix, as those High Mountain Tribe Paragon caches are very farmable with how much rep you can earn during this mode. So if you are going to be doing this, Legion Remix would be the best time to do it, because otherwise grinding all the rep on live realms is going to be a lot longer than others. But this one seems to be pretty much a guaranteed drop, that ever since the housing got added, this is one of those items that you can get from one of the emissary quests. Another one is going to be from Withered Training, and the reward is the Ancient Elven High Back Chair. Withered Training is a scenario that is available once you unlock the Nightborn faction and you help Thalistra get established. And once you get it started, it's essentially like a minigame of you trying to keep these Withered alive, while also trying to collect as many as possible, while also trying to get as many chests and rewards from this content in order to be able to build up a higher score. And the higher score, the better the reward. Anyway, the Ancient Elven High Back Chair has a chance to drop from the end of the Withered Training once you finish it. It's not really about getting a high quality run from Withered Training, it's more about getting as many runs as humanly possible, to be honest. But you can also get a bunch of other rewards from Withered Training during the time anyway, so just try to like push through it. And when you do it, I would just recommend just running through it as quickly as you can and try to get as many rewards as possible during the short time that you have. But yeah, the item itself is not a guaranteed drop, and you may take a couple of runs to do it, but if you do it on Legion Remix, especially with the super boosted up, powered up character, then it's going to be absolutely easy. But with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like, as I would very much appreciate it. Also, be sure to join our Discord community, especially since we now have a housing section there, where you're more than welcome to either share build ideas, or just ask around for build ideas there, or just ask questions regarding housing if you ever got, you know, stumped up in terms of finding items, or what bosses to farm, things like that. And in general, I would just love for you guys to be able to join our Discord community. With that, let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.